Hi and welcome to E-ZTutoring. Today we are going to cover how to find the exponential function given 2 points that the function crosses through. So suppose we are given the points 0, -18 and -2, -2. And from these points we have to write the exponential function, which we know is in the form of y equals a times b to the power of x. So the y and x, you just leave them like that, right? But the a and b, we need to find out what those values are. Now we do know that from these points, you plug in this value for x, and this is your result y value. So given that, what we can do is we can actually plug these numbers in and make some formulas. Now, once we make those formulas, this becomes much easier to solve. Here's what I mean. So if we plug in the 0 for x, so we get a, b to the 0. If we plug in the 0, then we must get -18 for y. -18. Okay? Now we do the same thing for this one. If we plug in a -2 for x, so a times b to the -2, we must get a -2 for the y. So we just made ourselves two different equations here. And this becomes much easier to solve now. I usually recommend starting with the one where you have the 0 as the exponent. And here's why, because any number to the power of 0 is what? 1, right? So this simply becomes -18 equals a times 1, and a times 1 is really just a. And this tells us that a is equal to -18. So now that we found the value of a, we can actually plug that value in right over here, and then we can solve for b. Now the reason I say you should start off with this one, with the exponent of 0, is because this variable always crosses out and you can always find a. Versus if you start off with this one first, you have two unknown variables and you can't solve for two at once. So we solve for a first, plug in a, now we can solve for b. So -2 equals a, which is -18, times b to the -2. What do you do with the negative exponent? Those aren't fun to work with. So in order to get rid of that negative, what you have to do is you have to flip it, and then your exponent turns positive. So I will cover this in another video, but for now, I will go straight to that. So we don't like having b squared on the bottom. If we want to solve for b squared, it'd be easier if we can get it on the top. So let's multiply by b squared on each side. So we get -2b squared equals -18. We divide by -2 on each side, so we get b squared equals 9. So now you just have to get rid of that square. So you square root both sides, and you get that b is equal to 3. Now, I know some of you right now might be thinking, wait a minute, it's a square root, that means we should get plus or minus 3. Well, that's true, but your b value, I'm going to write this down, your b value must always be greater than 0. You cannot have a negative number to an exponent. If you are wondering why, go ahead and make an XY table for it, and you will see how crazy that graph gets. So anyways, we went ahead and found our a value and our b value. So now we can plug those in. Y equals a, which is -18, times b, which is 3, to the power of x. So this right here is your exponential function that crosses through these 2 points. So just like that, that's how you can find your function. So let's go ahead and do one more example. Okay, so now suppose that our 2 points are 0, -2 and -2, -32. By now, I'm sure you have some idea of how to approach this. And if you do, and if you feel confident, I would recommend starting this and then comparing your answers at the end with me. Okay, so we once again know that we just need to make 2 equations, one with this point and another one with this point. Well, if we plug in 0 for x, we should get -2 for y. So -2 for y equals a times b to the x, which is 0. And once again, we know that this crosses out and becomes 1, right? So this is simply -2 equals a times 1, which is equal to a. So a is -2. Now let's do the same thing with this point. We have -2 for x, so b to the -2 times a equals y, which is -32. And once again, notice how I started with the one with the 0 exponent. I did that on purpose because of what I explained last time. So b to the -2, just like we did last time, we know is 1 over b squared equals -32. And we do know the value of a, which is -2, so we can plug that in here. And now this becomes simple algebra where we need to solve for b squared. So once again, b squared is on the bottom. So we want to get rid of that. And we want b squared on the top. So we multiply it on both sides. We get -32b squared equals -2. To get b squared, we divide by -32 on each side. We get that b squared equals 1 over 16. So now to get just b, we have to square root both sides. So we get that b equals 1/4. And once again, this could be plus or minus 1/4, but we know that b has to be greater than 0. So we've got our values here. Now all we need to do is plug them into the equation, and we get y equals a, -2, times b, 1/4, to the power of x. So this is your exponential function, and you can check it by plugging in these points. If you plug in a 0, you should get -2, and if you plug in a -2, you should get -32. So I did 2 examples. I hope you guys understand this topic now. And if you guys want SAT or ACT help, be sure to check out www.E-ZTutoring.com. Thank you and good luck.